All right, welcome everybody to the C Show. This is Chris. I'm with author and Kennedy researcher Sean Degrilla, who has written the book Malcontent, which is a must-have for anybody involved in the Kennedy assassination. One of the best books I've ever read, as far as giving you a unique perspective on Oswald's guilt. How are you, Sean?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, man. I'm glad to have you on. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You said you was in law enforcement for a while.
I was 17 years at the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Orlando, Florida. And that's what kind of gave me the inspiration to write this book, because day after day, dealing with dozens of criminals or suspected criminal activity, I was able to put that into perspective when viewing Oswald's activities, and that's what really led to the book Malcontent.
Well, what got you involved in or interested in the Kennedy assassination?
Grew up in Dallas. I moved to Dallas in '83 when I was 10.
Okay.
And of course, I was only 20 years old then, so the case was. So it was still pretty active. And I just got bit by the bug, as one author says. It's just, you know how it is. We all have it. And I was at ground zero, right? So
yeah,
and been fascinated ever since.
I think my first one was in '86 or '87 on the Geraldo show, and they had Badge Man and all that stuff, and I was just locked in. And I watched JFK, and man, I was just all in on the assassination.
Yeah, how can you not be hooked by it, right? It's fascinating.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, great.
So, how long did it take you to write this book?
About a year from start to finish.
About a year from start to finish. Now, this voice stress and his behavior and everything, that's something you developed, or you'd worked with people developing, or how did you come about that? I guess what I'm asking.
So the book is bifurcated. So the first part deals with his behavior.
Right.
How would somebody typically respond to being accused of a crime, for example, or someone who commits a crime, and then what do they act like after the crime's committed? And the second one was, this 1,000 books or so, I want to say, have been written about the assassination. What else can you say about it? So I want to do something that was new, was fresh, and I thought, I took a computer voice stress analysis test for the sheriff's office, and so I thought, you know what, let's try this. It's never been done before. Let's just see what happens, and that's how it came about.
So you said somebody accused of a crime. So, how's somebody supposed to act? I mean, it's supposed to be in denial.
Well, you're right.
I mean,
right.
I've always thought,
and different people react differently, no doubt about it. But typically, if you were accused of a crime, for example, let's just go back, killing a police officer, would you say, well, I hear they burn for murder? Or would you just be raising hell and saying, you've got the wrong guy, I have no idea what you're talking about? You'd be nervous, you'd be sweating. I mean, I would be. I think most people would be that way. But what do you see? You see the exact opposite, making arbitrary comments and
at least remain silent.
Absolutely right. When they said on the way to the jail, they said, hey, the media's there, you can lower your head below the window. He goes, I haven't done anything to be ashamed of. What does that tell you? I haven't done anything to be ashamed of. To me, he was proud of what he did. He was proud of his accomplishments. Not someone that want to hide their face, put a jacket over their face, or a hat covering their face.
I haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't done anything wrong. I'll be out here shortly. You guys got the wrong guy. It's like, I haven't done anything to be ashamed of.
I've never heard that before. I've done anything to be ashamed of. He said that. Yeah. I haven't done anything wrong. Okay. All right. So that's it. All right. So let's go to the next one. We're talking about behavior wise, or do you want to say with the voice test, or which way do you want to go with it right now?
Well, we can do the computer voice test. I know that's controversial. No doubt about it.
All right, good. Let's go to that.
Yeah, we done. Let's get into that one. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, Jerry Crotty, who's the number 2 guy in the computer voice stress field, is the one that did this test for me. And I approached him and I said, hey, listen, this is the book I'm doing. If I send you some audio clips. Can you please run it through the machine? And then you tell me if there's deception indicated or no deception indicated. And he said, absolutely. So I gave him clips, and everything you see in the book is everything that I gave him. I didn't withhold anything. Nothing was changed. And I think the biggest way to see the CVSA works is to compare Oswald's answers to the historical record, things we can prove. So, for example, Oswald was never a buck sergeant in the military, he never went above PFC. And he said during his radio interview that and he said twice, and he's thinking of an answer. It's hard block stress, and he said buck sergeant. Now it's hard block stress because he knew he wasn't a buck sergeant. He was a private.
So explain the hard block stress for somebody may not know.
Sure. So when you're looking at the graph, it's in the book, and also it's on SeanDegrilla.com. I put some of the graphs on there. You can see that. You can follow along as well. Yeah. As you're looking at the chart, it's called the rise, which is the beginning. If you look at the charts on the left-hand side, it's the rise, and the body is the middle, and then the decay is the end on the right. So between the rise and the decay, and the body is the middle. And if it looks like a hedge, for example, for lack of a better term, if it looks like a hedge, that's hard block stress. That means he is feeling he's being deceptive. If it looks like a Christmas tree, then it means there's no deception indicated.
Okay. Now, of course, this would not be admissible in court. We know that, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm sorry. I want to say this. Sorry. Let's pretend for a moment, like something like this was admissible in court, and the defense attorney comes up there and goes, "You expect my jury to believe this hocus pocus, hocus pocus magic you got? What is your response to people out there who's going, I don't know about this?"
And that's perfectly natural, and I totally get it. I am going to do a revised Malcontent next few years. I want to develop the CVSA better. I want to deep dive the CVSA. When I was in contact with Jerry recently, he said that the results of the exam cannot be used in court. So for example, deception indicated or no deception indicated. But the examiner can testify from what became from that exam. So that's pretty important. It's like the polygraph. It's not admissible into court, but the examiner can testify as to what the results were. Jerry is the one that came up with the CVSA questions for sex offenders. Now, federal and state sex offenders are mandated to take this truth verification and can be testified to it in court. And so basically, the CVSA is an investigative tool. This is something different, right? So it's just one of many tools in our tool chest to ascertain whether or not Oswald was guilty or not. For example, Mr. Oswald, how'd you hurt your eye? A policeman hit me. That's true. We can verify that. And it shows no deception indicated. There's one where it can show you deception indicated and no deception indicated in the same breath. So in the midnight press conference, Oswald stated he was asked, "Did you kill the president?" And he said, "No, I have not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet." Well, no was hard block stress. He was lying. I have not been charged with that. No deception indicated, because he was not charged with killing Kennedy until after that press conference. So the CVSA was able to pick up Oswald being deceptive when he said, "No, I didn't kill the president," and being honest in the same breath when he said, "I have not been allowed. I have not been charged with that." I hope you can edit that out, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's like an idiot. So the CVSA was able to make that determination between a lie at the beginning of his answer and then the truth at the end of his answer in the same breath. I think that's pretty, conclusive as to if this CVSA is accurate or not.
What about when, and I'm sure you know this, when he comes in there and goes, "I simply don't know anything about this. Nobody's told me anything."
Right. Well, That one was not done. But once again, that's a lie. We know that's a lie because he was brought into the interrogation room and he knows exactly what's going on. He's been led in and out of that hallway, the third floor hallway, all afternoon. So he knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I've told when people said that, when he says, I simply don't know what the situation is about. And I said, when he comes in there, he said, he's denying shooting the president. Naturally, I work in that building. And I said, well, wait a second. They've questioned you for 10 hours now, and you don't know, they've not told you anything what this situation is about?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. He lied. I mean, he lied a lot. But, now he was in the throngs of the worldwide media. So I think a lot of that caught up with him. I don't think he was really prepared for that. But I took a computer voice stress analysis for the sheriff's office. So when I first got hired, the examiner asked me a series of questions. And then she goes, okay, on this next question, I want you to lie. I'm like, okay. And she was wearing glasses. And I want you to lie when I ask you if I'm wearing glasses. And I lied. And at the end, I said, can I see the results? I was fascinated. She goes, yeah. And Christmas tree, no problem. The very last question was that hedge-looking response. He goes, you lied right here when I asked you to lie. And
something about the voice. Something about
the easiest way that Jerry told me, the layman's term to understand this. And now I'm not certified in the CVSA. I purposely did not do so because it would mean nothing. I haven't examined anybody. I have no metric by which to compare myself to. So I had to rely on the person who is the number 2 guy in the world. But he said basically for layman to understand it, it's like this. Your voice has, it's like an AM FM radio. So the AM frequency is the audio, is the voice you hear. And the FM frequency is the inaudible. And that when you are being deceptive, that FM frequency dissipates, it disappears. And the dissipation of that frequency is what the CVSA registers.
Okay. So I wish my handwriting is so bad. I'm embarrassed. I can't even tell you the names. But I was sitting there, and I was when I was getting ready for this, I was reading. I forgot what the guy that names the book is. He had written a book, and he said based on his voice stress test, Oswald, there was an 87% chance that Oswald had passed.
Talk about George O'Toole and the assassination tapes?
That's it, yes.
Okay, so interesting about that is that Dr. Charles Humble, who reverse engineered the PSE, which is what George O'Toole used to work for George O'Toole. And O'Toole only had one chart in his book. That was it. And it said, I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir. That was the one chart he had. And when Dr. Humble looked at that chart, and it's in my book, he pointed directly to the place in the chart where O'Toole changed the speed. So, for example, there's mode A, or mode 1 and mode 2. 1 is for male voice because we have bass in our voice, and mode 2 is for female voices because they don't have bass in their voice. And he said that he saw where George changed the speed of the PSE from mode 1 to mode 2. And that's how he's able to show that Oswald was not being deceptive when he said, I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir. O'Toole passed away, I want to say in 91. So it's a little hard to interview him. There are no records, any work records of his or any papers that I could get a hold of from the company he used to work for. His family did not respond to any of my requests. In his book, he says he has more charts, but never published them. We have no idea where they're at. I frankly don't think they exist. And I think I've proven with somebody. In fact, when Dr. Humble looked at that chart from O'Toole, he goes, George, what are you doing? That's what he said out loud. So I think that I was able to prove that. Well, you know what? He's passed away, so I don't want to make any disparaging comments. I don't know the intentionality of Mr. O'Toole. Maybe, he took a 3-day orientation course on the PSE, the psychological stress evaluator, and then went out and started doing all these exams. So right away, he has no metric by which to compare his results to because he just took an orientation course. Just like I didn't get certified in it because it wouldn't mean anything. He should have deferred, let somebody else do it. I think it had a little more, robustness to it.
So I was reading something else a while ago that got on here, and I didn't get into it too much before I got into it. But there was one article I was reading. They said the voice stress tests were only anywhere between 15 to 50% accurate.
I don't know where's that from? The
Yes.
if you could,
I mean, I
no,
feel
no worries.
so. I was sitting there
All
just.
right, if you could send it to me later, I'll look at it. Jerry
I
sent me,
will.
and I published in my book. It's they have 95%.
Okay. Because I'll go back and look at it. I hate myself for doing it because I was sitting there and I was writing stuff down, and then I come back here and look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I gonna come back here and tell him where I got this from?
You sent it to me later. I want to look at it, but it's used by over 2,500 law enforcement agencies across the United States and around the world. Like I said, I've taken it. I've seen how it can work. There are no known countermeasures. So, for example, the polygraph, you can kind of skirt around that one either with pressure points or perhaps medication. But alcohol, medication, there are no known countermeasures for the CVSA.
Because I was reading that the and you may know the numbers better than I do. They said that a polygraph was 80%, 87% effective at telling somebody telling the truth.
Okay. That might be. They still use the PSE,
Yeah.
but once again, for the polygraph, which is different than the CVSA, the polygraph, there are countermeasures. So that is less effective than the CVSA. But, I think what we have to understand is we have to get educated. And I'm still deep diving into the CVSA and looking more into it. I think it's becoming a little more accepted as we go along. And it's used a lot to exclude or isolate criminals during an investigation. So it's a great investigative tool. It's not just the end-all be-all. It's one thing out of many that we can use to determine Oswald's guilt. I don't base everything on the CVSA, but I think the way it looks, the way the results came out is spot on. We can prove through the historical record Oswald's truth or deception in his responses, and it was spot on every single time.
Is there any other ones that you know of off the top of your head? That,
Yeah, let me. I'm just a patsy. That's a perfect one. Now let's go back. So a lot of people, and once again, it comes back to getting educated. When he said I'm just a patsy, it's because he was coming from the Soviet Union. So they said they have taken me in because of the fact that I live in the Soviet Union. I'm just a patsy. So, for example, it would be today coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan, that kind of thing, right? It wasn't I'm a patsy in the assassination. Someone else did it. It's, I just came back from Russia, and now I'm being thrown out as patsy because we're still in the throes of the Cold War. So that's the distinction we have to make when he said this. But I'm just a patsy. I'm and patsy were hard block stress. The rest of the words were not.
Good. Okay. Let's see. When
I have another one. I'm sorry. I'm looking.
No. Okay. You go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
You tell whichever ones you know, because.
Yeah. They have given me a hearing without legal representation or anything.
That's when
they have given me a hearing without legal representation or anything. So
Nichols didn't see him.
So a hearing without legal representation was showing no deception. Or anything, any in anything was showing hard block stress.
Is that because Nichols had came in there and seen him?
I'm sorry?
Is that because I think his name was Nichols or Nichols? Is that because he became in there and seen him?
Dallas Bar Association, correct.
Yes.
And not to mention that he was given a phone call to call Apt. He did call Apt, but
That's right, yeah.
Who was in his cabin in Kent, Connecticut, and of course there was no telephone there and didn't know.
Yeah. Okay. That makes so he should have just let him not been given any legal representation.
Correct.
They would have no deception. Okay.
If we,
You remember the part where he goes, I don't know the facts you people have been given, but I emphatically deny these charges.
right. I did not do that one. So what I want to do is when I redo Malcontent, I'm going to do a whole book on the CBSA. I want to do all of his known audio clips in Dallas anyways. That's what I want to do. That'd be a great one. I didn't do it. I picked the ones I thought were the most common, the ones that we see most often in the books or documentaries, but that's definitely going to be done here in the next 2 years. And I want to do Buell Frazier, Marina Oswald, and some others who've been cast into doubt or suspicion.
I'd like to see that too. That would be awesome
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
That really would, because that that would be pretty cool. You know, and I like though, because like you said about the clips we only see, and I know there had to be more, because I came across one time, and God, I got it saved, but I'd never seen it before. But he was walking through and he was complaining, and he said something about I've been denied my basic hygienic rights. I've not been given a shower, and I don't think I can think of it.
Or a book. So he goes, yeah, but I've denied my basic hygienic rights, such as a shower and a book. I mean, that's what he was thinking. Yeah, that's the way I heard it.
Okay, no, I just he may have said it. I don't think I remember was when he said his hygienic rights. I started laughing, and I was thinking, right. Dude, you got bigger problems to worry about right now than taking a shower, okay?
Right. And he's been accused of killing the president of the United States and a policeman, and he wants a book. You know, so it shows you kind of where his mind was headed at. I just, you know, to me that doesn't sound like someone who's innocent.
No, not to me at all either. No. No, I didn't know. Yeah, because that was the only one I'd heard with that right there. So voice. So I touched. Oh yeah, I was going to send that to you, and then the polygraph. Body language or anything kind of body language he gave off that showed him look guilty.
The only thing that I saw in Malcontent, which I published, is his clenched fist salute. So when he's first arrested and he's transported down to the Dallas Police Headquarters, he goes up the elevator, and when he comes out, he does a clenched fist salute like this. And, you know, that is your chance right then and there when you have these throngs of reporters to really scream your innocence and say, hey, you've got the wrong guy. I don't know what I'm doing here. And he holds up his hands like this. He's not showing he has handcuffs on because all arrested people have handcuffs, so that's a given. That's not what it was. To me, I interpret that as the clenched fist salute. And in fact, in Malcontent, I believe, I know there's some disagreement, but I believe that once he was shot in the basement and they dragged him back into the office, Detective Combest was screaming at him, hey, is there anything you want to tell me? You know, is there anything you want to tell your family? Now's the time. And Oswald shook his head no. Never said anything. Is there anything you want to say? And by this time, he's unhandcuffed. And according to Combest, he stuck his hand up in a clenched fist salute. He did not testify for the Warren Commission because he didn't understand what this meant. Because prior to 1963 is mainly used in World War I, World War II, and not until the late 60s where we have the Olympians in 1968, the clenched fist salute, accepting their Olympic medals, you know, Black Panthers, that kind of stuff, where he realized, okay, now I understand what this means. It's all about getting educated. And there was a picture. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, wait. Are you talking a picture with this on the stretcher?
There's a picture of him on the stretcher, and his right hand is still clenched, and then he's in the ambulance. And as you look through the side of the ambulance, his fist is still clenched. So I think that's pretty reasonable. I know there's people that disagree with me. That's my interpretation of it. It makes sense that Detective Combest said he gave a clenched fist salute when he said, do you have anything else you want to say? I mean, he died. His last physical intentional act on earth was to give the clenched fist salute. Not to say, tell my kids, my wife, I love them. You know, I love you guys. Nothing. It was to give the clenched fist salute, in my opinion. And I think that's pretty indicative of what Oswald was doing. That's what he was all about that weekend.
The one thing I wonder about that, though, is, and I'm not calling any a liar because I've seen it with the clenched fist, but I remember the time when he gets shot and he goes down, and and I heard one reporter say he is unconscious and ashen. I mean, could that be something involuntary or movement, or I mean,
I've seen people in patrol where you get to someone, they're unconscious and they wake up again for a little bit, or they're the body is just it's different. It was such chaos down in the basement. I doubt that reporter probably saw much because everybody's running around there and he's being dragged away. So when he said he's ashen and unconscious at this time, that was said as he's being loaded into the ambulance. I do remember that sound clip.
Okay. And that right, that was sport. They took him back in there, and he asked, "Okay, yeah, yeah, all right." So he was probably still conscious.
He was in the beginning, correct. In fact, he was able to shake his head no. So he was but life was. If the officer's down on there on his hands and knees and trying to talk to him, trying to elicit a dying declaration, that puts you on notice that it's getting pretty bad pretty quick.
Yeah, and he was going to take that to his grave.
Yeah.
A couple of questions I have for you. Back to a polygraph. Since they're inadmissible in court, and the police officers always want people to ask them to take them. Why would just my thinking is why would anybody take one? I mean, because even if I was innocent, I've heard of too many innocent people failing them and too many people that were guilty passing them. I would just say no. I mean, I know I'd probably get more suspicion on me, but what do you have to gain by? I mean, if you're already a suspect, they want you to take it all. If you're already a suspect, they want you to take a polygraph test.
Well, I can tell you from experience that if I ask somebody to do something, for example, if I pull somebody over, and I thought they might have been impaired, hey, will you do some field sobriety exercises for me? I'm not doing that to be nice. I'm doing that to gain evidence. I'm doing that to reaffirm my suspicions about what's going on. So anytime they ask you to do something as a police officer, I'm doing that for a reason. So I would be not inclined to do such things.
What take a polygraph?
Correct. Anything. Now there certainly are instances where somebody confessed to a crime they didn't commit, and I think some of that has to do with the interrogation techniques that law enforcement used, not using breaks or being bullies, for example. So that stuff has happened. So it's not perfect. I'm not saying this is the end all be all, but I think this is brand new. No one's ever done this before, and I think it leads us in the right direction. Everything.
Well, it sounds exciting. I mean,
and I understand there are some detractors, no doubt, and I understand their concerns, and that's why I'm going to update Malcontent and really deep dive into CVSA and have more audio samples. I only had 12 from New Orleans and Dallas combined. So I think I'm going in the right direction, and I think it's just one more tool in our tool chest.
You said that the person who administers this test can get up there and tell the findings, but they can't administer the exact polygraph test, or they can't tell the. How did you explain that?
Right. That's correct. So in his correspondence to me, let me get it here so I can get it right. Quoting him, he said the results of the exam cannot be used in court, so deception indicated or no deception indicated. However, an examiner can testify to what came from the exam, the changes in the story or a confession, is what he was saying.
Okay.
So someone may take the CVSA and have one story, and at the end have something totally different.
You mean like that? When they start telling them their story starts one way, they have a different story at the end.
It's happened. Sure.
So if the person gets up there, I mean, you ever had, or something where a person gets up there and they do the test and their story. Now, wait a second, let me back up. These tests, is it gone on through a period of, say, 3 days of interrogation? Is that how they add it up and get to it? Or
if you're going through 3 days of interrogation, already it's flawed. I mean, you have to have breaks. It has to be reasonable. And let's go back to Oswald. It's just recordings, right? We can't interview him, and the best we have are recordings. So it's not perfect. It's the best we can do with what we have. It's such a unique case.
I guess the question I was trying to ask was, what if somebody gets up there and they're taking this test, but their story stays the same, but you have that point where you have the hard block, and then the deception, but the story still never varies. I mean, how does the examiner get up there, and if the story has never changed, how do they say?
Right. I think that's just based on individual cases. I think at that point it comes down to the examiner and the bona fides the examiner has, how many exams they've done, what their opinion is of the exam. But each case is different. The charts that are in Malcontent, the actual criminal charts, are from sex offenders. Some that are telling the truth, and then some that are being deceptive.
Well, I guess what I go is when I do these things, like, and I don't know if it would be fair to do this since it's changing. It's like with Bill Brown and Fred and those other guys. I always ask them, like, okay, you're a prosecutor or you're a defense attorney. You've got that guy up there on the stand. Attack this technique right here. I mean, how are you going to, in front of a jury? How are you going to? You expect this jury to believe this hocus pocus that you're putting up here in front of them just because you can tell something off their voice? I mean, how would you attack it?
I mean, and that's their job, right? So when I would write charging affidavits, I would arrest somebody. Let's go back to DUIs. When I'm writing my report, I'm thinking, how would a defense attorney attack this report? How would they tear this apart? And that's how we would get better and better by going to court, getting grilled by these defense attorneys, and then changing, okay, next time we're going to say this instead, or next time we need to look for this instead. So I think it makes you better over time. But they're not perfect. But I think in this case with Oswald, if we look at the charts that came out, we can verify through the historical record when he was telling the truth and when he was lying. And nothing came out wrong. Nothing came out that was contrary to the historical record. And I think that in of itself lets me know that we're on the right track with this one.
I look forward to that second one. When's it going to be out?
I'm working on my second book on Oswald. It's going to happen after this one, so I want to say 2 more years.
And then you said you had a third one, but I'm not going to ask about that because you told me how to keep it secret. I'll be looking forward to that one too. Is there anything else you want to add to this? I mean, I know we need to tell everybody where you can find your books at.
Oh, it is on Amazon. If you go to SeanDegrilla.com, that's my website. You'll see some of the charts on there. In my book is Michael Payne's manuscript about Lee Harvey Oswald that was published for the first time in there as well. My son and I interviewed Jim Lavelle just a year before he died.
I'd love to have had that.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, my boy Gibson was, I want to say 10 at the time. So Jim just sat there for an hour and talked to Gibson while I was able to gather Lavelle's personal and private notes about the assassination, which I published for the first time in Malcontent. So, I understand there are going to be some that have reservations. I totally get it. I expect that to be that way, and that's how you get better.
DNA, when they first came out, everybody was like, "What are you talking about?" Sure. DNA connecting all people like that. So yeah, I see where that's going to happen with that.
I think it's like I've said before. I think the CVSA is just one tool in our tool chest. I think there are others. You have the ballistics and other, his behavior and his words, that kind of stuff. And I think it's the totality of the circumstances, right? So it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 things that I believe seal Oswald's guilt. It's the totality of the circumstances. It's everything put together, all the provable elements of this case that I believe point to his guilt.
I mean, people are listening. I mean, books. I just got it sitting over there. I was looking over some pages of it again just a while ago before we got on this. I mean, the book's amazing. I think you did a great job on that. Like I said, it was something. We can talk about the single bullet theory. I mean, how many books have been written on that, and the bag, and it's just so many. The grassy knoll shooter, and so it's like, God, give me something else I can read
and
about.
That's why it's something unique. I thought this is great. It's new. No one else has done it besides George O'Toole, but he used the PSE instead of the CBSA. But I'll go back to this. You are entitled to your own opinion, but not to your own facts. And this thing only happened one way. So I think I like the form. I mean, right? So I like the forms that we have because I don't believe in the CBSA. It's junk. It's it's junk science, whatever it is. Well, in this case, you have to kind of do more research about it. And when I have the number 2 guy in the world running these tapes, I think that lends a lot of credibility to these tapes. And there's going to be more that's going to come out. This is not the end of it. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think when Buell Frazier and Marina Oswald and some others are subjected to this, which is going to happen in my next book, I'm very excited to see what happens with that.
I am too. I'm really curious about that. I mean, especially Ruth Payne too. Yeah, for being somebody that 3 years ago at this time believed that Oswald was framed, to now believing that there was no that he was the lone gunman and the single bullet theory is true and he killed Tippett.
Well, I'm really interested in Buell Frazier because his testimony has been unswerving for the most part that Oswald carried this package in the vehicle and then in the building. And now with his book that came out, Steering Truth.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got some stuff in there that really, to my knowledge, hasn't been talked about since 2013. I think it was when some of this stuff first came out. And I have some serious reservations, some serious doubts about some of these claims in his book. And I think that's...
do you think he might have known more than what he's letting on?
My personal opinion, and that's just what it is, my personal opinion, is that I think some things were added to the book to create talk about the book, to create this buzz about the book.
Because I'm just not, my thing was when I'm hearing about him bringing out this book, and I'm like, dang, dude, why didn't you bring something out like this 30 years ago when you could have really cashed in? And
there's people saying, "Oh, he was scared," and I don't buy that at all. It's understandable if you're scared the first day or two or a week or whatever, but not for the first 30 years. That's unreasonable. No. Frankly, I have a hard time. I don't want to call anybody a liar. There are some witnesses, quote unquote witnesses, that have come forward which absolutely are not telling the truth. But I don't know. I'm a little disappointed in this book. Well, so we'll see. That's gonna be something.
I was too when I first started hearing that, because he just always seemed to me as such a sincere man that wouldn't lie, and I hadn't, I just it just took me by surprise that he would wait till this long to do that. I just don't know why. Now, I know that I remember hearing him one time. He said he believed Lee Harvey Oswald was innocent. I don't know why he said that, but I was really disappointed in him.
So what I look for and what I published in Malcontent, I go back to the primary source documents. What did people say that day, right? What do people say that weekend? And that's really your best evidence in this case, not something that someone has said 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later. I just don't, I just, that holds little weight with me. I think statements given contemporaneously with the event are your best indicators of what really happened that day.
I definitely most agree with that, because I've seen throughout this case with Carolyn Arnold, stories changing, and then kind of off topic tonight. I had to rule on something in one of my groups. A book. Guys was arguing about a book, and this guy goes, "This professor uncovered this evidence." About Civil War, uncovered this evidence, recently uncovered evidence from the Civil War. I'm like, I'm really skeptical about somebody uncovered evidence from 145 years ago in a document. So, those are always, I want to hear what you said that day and not 2-3 days. And now, 60 years later, our memories change and have a way of altering of what,
Sure, you can be interviewed and over-interviewed. You hear something, you read something, and that could subconsciously maybe change what you think or what you think you saw. And that's possible, but I don't know. But I'm really skeptical about that.
Yeah, I don't. I want to get that too because I don't know what to think of Buell on that. I'm very skeptical with that one too. I mean, of course, and all the books today too that come out by the new authors, I don't really get them. I mean, I certainly got this one, but I like going back to the ones that was written in the '60s and '70s and stuff like that until you got these third or fourth generation researchers and
Right.
coming up with different kind of stuff. It's just my take on it, but I can't wait.
There's a lot of junk out there, whether it's Jackie killed Kennedy or it's just insane what's out there.
When I was you're not. I think you're a couple years older than me, but when I was a kid, 80s and stuff, it first started coming out. It was universally accepted. Oswald pulled the trigger, but somebody else was helping him. And now they've got 10 assassination teams down there and book out shooting Ruby and two Oswalds and I'm like. But Jackie and Greer shooting. But I'm asking something wait a second. Somebody's going to come to you and tell you you're going to drive a car into a triangulated crossfire. Oh, sure, okay, I'll do that. I mean, what do people get with get this?
So this huge conspiracy, which has never been seen before or since then, and to what end? To what end? Why would they want to kill Kennedy in the first place? It makes no sense. However, if you're going to frame somebody, for example, shooting from behind Kennedy, and these are such elaborate and sophisticated conspirators, yet you're going to have the gunman in front of Kennedy, it doesn't make any sense, right? Once you have something in the Dow Tech's building, for example, the records building, so maybe the ballistics or the angles, trajectories might kind of match up. See, none of this makes any sense, but there are some truly well-meaning people in the conspiracy community that actually believe, there was a conspiracy, and I give them credit for, doing what they think is the right thing. But on the other hand, on the flip side of that coin is just, I think the more outrageous people kind of swallow up the goodness that maybe some of the well-meaning conspiracy folks are trying to do. But I think if you go look back at the primary source evidence, and if you just kind of use common sense, right? I mean, a conspiracy that might have taken maybe 3 months to put together can't be dismantled in 60 years. These conferences have done nothing. These conferences, JFK, Lancer, and others, have done nothing. They haven't come any close to solving this case. It's just, you just have to kind of face facts.
When I went to Dealey Plaza last March, and I was like, well, where's it at? This has got to be a miniature version. And I said, and I was looking over there, and I stood over the triple underpass where SM Hall and all those guys was at. And I mean, I could see all behind there. And I was like, I could see everything. And then, they're talking about the puff of smoke. And they said, there's Lee Bower's tower. And I was like, well, God, he could have seen the color socks he was wearing. And then the sniper's nest up there. And I was like, okay, so you've got 3 sniper teams this close, and to frame Oswald. What if one of them gets caught? Or what if all 3 of them gets caught? I mean, you don't take a chance on something like that.
And people, of course not. And people forget. And people forget that for the Grassy Knoll, the parking lot behind there was used by the Dallas Sheriff's Department. Those employees who parked there, so there's law enforcement presence there. From what I understand, Bowers was flipping the tracks to red at the time, and to do that, his back was turned to the fence. So, I think you have to go down there. You have to see for yourself, stand there, and I've been in the firing range. I'm sure you've shot firearms before. And if someone is shooting a rifle within a couple of feet of you, you're going to know it. You're going to see it. You're going to smell it. You're going to feel it. And there's no way. Yeah, it's just preposterous. You have to.
And the first thing that really got me, I didn't really think about it, was when I started thinking about the Grassy Knoll shot. I thought, wait a second. He's in an unsupported prone position. How is he going to? And I said, and the vehicle's coming towards him. He's not going to be able to track a vehicle. Coming towards him. And I did when I got to go to Dallas last summer. It was pretty. Scott Mosley, he brought his Carcano down there, and I got to fire it. And I busted my head. And for it not to be zeroed, not to be old, that was a pretty accurate weapon. First time on the 50 yard, I didn't touch it, and I realized, okay, it's firing high and to the right. So I adjusted it, and then I got 6 kill shots the next time, and it was, I found the weapon. I found that problem I found with the weapon is and he hadn't rolled the bolt, but the bolt was, you put a little muscle in it. And the other thing that, and it could have actually caused him problems that day. He's pretty lucky. It jams easy. But other
It
than
does.
that, I found.
I have an Oswald clone up on my wall right now. The only thing different is the serial number. I have the exact Generation 1 scope, the M13 Air Truman holster they use. It's exact replica. It's the same make, model, year, everything. And yeah, I mean, it's not a perfect weapon. In fact, Oswald didn't shoot very well. He missed the first shot on Walker, right? And then the first shot on Kennedy, he missed. I think what happened was, if we're going, I know we're getting off topic. I don't know if it's going to make it or not, but personally, I think, Chris, that he used the scope for the first shot, and the scope was out of alignment. And then I think he transitioned to the iron sights because he was trained to shoot at 500 yards iron sights, and the headshot was 88 yards. So if anyone has the Carcano, you can see that the scope is offset to the left because you have the bolt action on the right. So it's very easy. I've cycled mine through. I don't think mine has ever been fired. The cleaning rods are still wrapped in their original tape in the stock of the rifle. So, but it's not a perfect weapon. And he's just about his head too. So.
Well, it's I'll say there too. I'll say these two things. I have a different take on why he missed the first shot.
Okay.
I don't think he ever used the scope when he wasn't, because he wasn't trained on it. I think what happened was, from where the car was at and where he was looking at and where he would be at, he would almost be looking down, unsupported.
Right.
And I think he just kind of pulled. I think he kind of pulled it.
Could have. I mean,
and when people talk about the headshot, I tried to explain to him. I said, look, I said, just a rifleman. I said, he wasn't a sniper, a rifleman. I said, you're not trained to shoot at the head. I said, the way the targets are lined up, the silhouette comes about chest high. I said, he was. I said, I'll tell you exactly where he's aiming. Where the back of the limo touched the back. That's where he was hitting, because you aiming actually at the lowest part and hit the lines. Got up and he got a headshot.
And that could be as well. And obviously, we'll never know. And that could be as well. I mean, I think the first shot, he was so. Can you imagine the terror and the excitement and just the
nerves were on it? Yeah.
And I think he was so nervous. I think he jerked that shot off the first time, and it was just. And then I think he took his time with the other ones. And
I don't think he actually decided to go through with it until the last minute. I mean, if it's true that he was walking around up there,
it's possible. I mean, it's. I think once he made that cover, yeah. Honestly, I think he had about 36 hours to plan this assassination. When I think he found out on Wednesday, reading Tuesday's paper, that the motorcade was coming into downtown Dallas and probably past his building. I think that's when the inkling first entered his little mind that he was going to try to maybe pull this off. I mean, obviously we'll never know, but
the stars lined up for him that night.
You know what? And sometimes that's a happenstance of history, right? So sometimes that happens, and people can't accept that. There's got to be something greater. Well, sometimes these things just happen.
Yeah, I mean, I explain that to a lot of people. I mean, yeah, I mean, I go off topic on everything, and and sometimes it's just a itch here or there, and like, and I hope this don't sound bad. I really don't, because Kennedy president was being killed, but the guy who I feel sorry the most for is Tippett. I mean, he's just a cop out there going to look for somebody and gets out to question him, and then Oswald, and people try to make this. I said, look, Oswald just got the drop on him, man. I said he got out of his car. By the time he noticed it, Oswald had reached over there and just fired 4 shots.
That's it. So, action is always quicker than reaction. So Oswald's action of pulling his revolver out and shooting is always going to be quicker than Tippett's reaction to that. So action versus reaction. Action is always quicker than reaction. So I think once Tippett stopped his vehicle, instead of just driving on by and saying, have a nice day, I think when Tippett got out of the vehicle, I think he made a quick decision. This is what's going to happen. And, yeah, I mean, it's just, it's just one of those things that happens. I mean, that's just the way the world works. And it's hard for people who haven't been in law enforcement. So this book was from a law enforcement perspective. You can't just watch cops on Fox News, right? You have to, when you're a cop and you deal with people like this, and if you're involved in shootouts or physical confrontations, you start to see how people behave, and that the world is always not perfect. It's not how it is on TV. It's not like Criminal Minds where these things fall all together in in 42 minutes. That's not the way the world works. And I think people have to come back to reality and accept the fact that this guy just took advantage of a situation, and that's just the way it is. Sometimes that's just the way the world works.
I've always been lucky with my experience with law enforcement officers. There's never been anything violent, but I've always been lucky with. Of course, I've never been fought back or anything, but I've had always good experiences. Knock on wood, but I think a lot of that goes how your behavior is with them. I mean, because there's been times they could have put bracelets on me and I got to go home.
Well, and we're humans here, and the way I always took care of business was, you treat me like a gentleman and I'll treat you like a gentleman, right? At the end of the day, we're all humans and we all make mistakes. People deserve second chances, depending on what it is. And law enforcement, for the most part, has has discretion, except for domestics and some other stuff. But we have discretion, and sometimes people deserve second chance. I'll tell you this: I was in a 7-Eleven, was not in uniform, this a couple years ago, and I was paying for something, and this guy goes, "Hey, you're that cop, right?" So now there's two things. Are they going to compliment me, or are we going to get into a fight? And I said, "Hey, how's it going?" He goes, "I just want to thank you. I had picked up a prostitute, and instead of arresting us, you gave me a talking to, and you let me go. And he hadn't done anything yet." And I said, "You know what? Now I do remember you." And this guy remembered that from all these years and recognized me when at first I had no idea who he was. And he says, "Thank you. I turned my life around. I gave my life to God. My relationship with my wife is a lot better." And sometimes people just, deserve a second chance, and that's,
I mean, what seems like that turned his life around, so to speak. Because I want to tell you a few things we cut this. I just won't say it on camera. It'll be funny, but is there anything else you wanted to add to this before you go?
I know I've gone off track. I don't know how much it's going to make it into it or not, but
we can keep going as long as you want.
No, I'm sorry. No, I understand. And look at Barry Ryder. Barry Ryder is a amazing person, and he believes in Oswald's good. And he gave me a terrible review of Malcontent at Amazon UK. And you know what? Part of it, he's right. I should have developed the CVSA a lot better. He doesn't believe in it. But yeah, and you know what? But I think I like these forums because if people are truly constructive with criticism, it can make you better. Whether which camp you're in doesn't matter. And so I'm thinking at first,
some of these people are just got their mind made up, and there's nothing there you can do to ever convince them otherwise.
Next book that I'm doing now.
I mean, there's people that just. And when I first came in, there was like, I would never be convinced otherwise, and nothing. And then I started listening to people like Patrick Collins and Martin Kelly and just numerous other guys, and I started listening, and I was like, well, I got two choices. Either I can get mad and leave, or I can start like, hey, maybe there is maybe there isn't this vast conspiracy. I've put down that somebody asked me the other day, said, "You're a long gunman now that doesn't believe in a conspiracy," and I said, Booth was a long gunman, but there's still a conspiracy. I said, I'm 99% sure there wasn't. I said, the lingering doubt in my mind, and it's not our government thing, is the Mexico City trip. That's the one thing that's and I became fascinated with that then, because there's a statement that was made that LBJ told Warren, and his quote was, in quotation marks, "What Hoover told me about a little incident in Mexico City." And I want to know, what little incident did he tell him in Mexico City? Because the day after the assassination, Hoover was in LBJ's office with the Mexico City stuff. So, and it could have just been something benign that they dropped the ball on. And
I think that's it. So I think, I obviously believe that the CIA took pictures of Oswald entering and leaving the embassies. I think they destroyed the photos or somehow, got rid of them, took them out of the files, because I think they did that then rather than to admit they made a mistake. They knew about Oswald beforehand, and that they're not always the effective agency people think they are. So people made mistakes, and I think if you go back to Oswald, I think it was just as innocuous as he wanted to get to Cuba. The Fair Play for Cuba committee stuff he did in New Orleans, I think, is building his resume and building his bona fides so that he could show the Cuban embassy, hey, this is where I want to go. I'm a supporter of Fidel. I think that's really what it was. The FBI and CIA knew about him. They debriefed him, and the CIA lied about it. They covered their tracks because I think they made a mistake. They didn't catch him in time. They didn't recognize him.
You don't want that kind of egg on your face. And, and then I think it was Theodore McCone said something about a benign cover-up. And I could say, okay, I can see that. Patrick Collins, he doesn't believe in any kind of conspiracy, but he was the one that turned me on to the Mexico City things. He told me, he said that he believed, if there was anything, it'd be there. And he told me about a book that was called Castro Secrets, and that it came out that
don't have that one.
Castro knew about Oswald and had heard about this attempt that was supposed to take place, and that's where I thought, what if he had made some kind of rogue agent in Cuba, and they was keeping contact?
Well, that presupposes they knew where the motorcade was going to be. That that it's going to go right past here at this certain time, and that is a lot of things that have to fall into place, and it's just like trying to plan that right now. We have no idea where someone's going to be right now, so I don't know.
Well, I think that what got me too is that when I really started, and another thing that kept adding to me is like they didn't even decide on a motorcade until the 11th, and then didn't pick the route till like this. And I was like, wow, so you would have to have knowledge.
Right. So correct. I don't think that happened. I don't think that could have happened. I think that's just he went there to get to Cuba, or possibly trying to get back to the Soviet Union, and I think that's what it was about. And when they're like, we're not having this guy again, this guy is not who we want, I think he came back defeated, and then this opportunity fell in his lap, and I think he just saw it as his ticket.
Do you think that and because I asked everybody this, and none of us know, he did it just to do it. He did it to be famous. He did it. Do you have a reason, or do you have an idea why he did it? I do. I kind of do, really. It may surprise you, but do you have any thoughts on it?
I'll go first. Obviously, anybody who crosses that bright line from reality into shooting somebody or actively stalking somebody or killing somebody, you're not right in the head. There's something wrong with you. So right off the bat, there's a psychological issue. But I think he was definitely a Marxist. In fact, his computer voice stress analysis in the New Orleans radio interview was like, "Are you a Marxist?" He goes, "Yes, I'm a Marxist," and no deception indicated on that one. So I think that I think he thought he was better than people thought he was. I think he was frustrated. I think he was trying to find himself. I think he thought of himself as a revolutionary. And look at the backyard photographs. He bought the weapons for his Walker attempt. Forget about Kennedy. That wasn't even on the horizon. It was for Walker. Look what he was doing. He thought he was a revolutionary, and it was unrealistic. And the more I study him, Oswald, the more I think that he was divorced from reality. And I think he did it for his own personal and political reasons.
And I think all that right there has I agree with all that too. I think there's something that, I don't know, deeper, or maybe I don't know how to describe it, but they said that he had asked the day before, one of that week, the Paynes and Marina bring the kids out to watch the parade, and then that night he supposedly tried to make amends with her, and she didn't, and he left the wedding ring somehow. And it may not be nothing, but I think he's such a sociopath. He thought that if I can't have my family back, I'll just ruin all of our lives.
Yeah, sorry, that's my daughter. Hold on.
No, that's fine.
I don't think I think that even if Marina had decided to get it together with him, I think he still would have shot the president. He didn't really take too much into consideration his family when he shot at Walker, right? So, and he was living with his wife then, and things supposedly, well, and he was beating his wife, of course. So, I mean, I don't think that would have mattered. I think, you know what, Walker
Yeah.
failed, and boy, I got the president of the United States going right by my building. I
Do you
mean,
think?
what?
Do you think that say he had got Kennedy on the first or second shot, you think he'd try to get Connolly too?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I think he was so fixated on Kennedy. I don't even know if you recognize Connolly was in there. I mean, he might have read that in the paper. He might have. But the seating configuration, the limousine changed throughout the motorcade. So San Antonio was different than Houston. It was different than Fort Worth. Was different from Dallas. So I think he didn't see John F. Kennedy. He saw the president of the United States. I think that's what it came down to. The leader of the free world being cut down by a Marxist. I mean,
what better way for Marxism to strike at the free world?
That's it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Somebody had asked me the other day, they said, well, why did he only bring 4 shells with him? I said, well, how many shots did you expect him to get off?
Well, and here's the thing is he was miserly, right? So he didn't spend any money than he had to. So his daughter slept in the lower dresser drawer instead of having a bassinet. And she slept so she slept in the dresser. So I think during his target practice and Walker shooting, I think he had a limited amount of ammunition. He never found his ammunition box, so I think he's had a few rounds left, and that was it.
But he's not going to be able to get that many off. I mean,
no.
I mean,
he had chambered his 4th round, but by then the limousine was already out of the way. It was already, towards triple underpass.
Sharpshooter, and if a sharpshooter can't do it within, 2 or 3 shots, he's not going to be able to do it by then.
That's correct. I think that's all the ammunition he had left in the world. Obviously, it was Texas in the '63. He could buy whatever he wanted, and he would have bought more if this didn't work out, for example, or he was out of ammo. He would have bought some, of course, but I think that's just what he brought, what he had with him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think so. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, yeah.
I don't think there's any mystery to that. I think it's just that's all he had left. Like even the Tippett ammunition, it was mixed, right? So I mean, I think he just did the best what he could. He couldn't afford very much.
That was so funny. I was talking to somebody about that one night, and hold on, let me open it up. About Oswald having mixed ammunition on him. One of my friends asked me, he said, "What?" Hold on, let me set it down here. He said, "What is the best weapon that you carry for with your for self-defense?" And I got my pistol. I got pistol for me. I said, "Here." So I opened it up, and I've got a 38 revolver, and
actually,
I opened it up. It was like
you got.
Smith 5-shot Smith & Wesson lightweight, and so I handed it to my friend, and I had the rounds in my hand, and I got to looking down at it, and I was like, "Huh," and it was let's see, let me see, let me get them lined up here again. Remember how they were? It was 1, 2, 3 Remington, and 2 Winchester 38 specials.
And that's not uncommon. So I have a buddy who's very.
I was just saying that's why I just kind of hit me. I was like, these people are making a big deal about Oswald having mixed weapons. Here I've got two types of weapons, rounds in my 38.
That's not uncommon. So I have a friend who's very close to Marie Tippett, the Tippett family, and he's got a patch from one of JD's uniforms, and I've got a picture of the ammunition that was on JD's belt. In fact, I was able to hold part of his Sam Brown, his part of his belt, duty belt, and JD Tippett had different types of ammunition on his belt because back then there was no uniformity to it. Now it's only ammo from the duty master, right? You have to have a certain amount of ammunition certain manufacturer, and that's it. Well, back then, you bought your own ammunition. Sometimes you bought your own gun, depending on the agency. So there's nothing suspicious about having different types of ammo on you. Another, J.D. Tippit carried different types of ammunition on his belt the day he was killed.
Yeah,
And I'll
because I
share
was
that
showing.
with you. When we're done, I'll share that picture. I'll share that picture with you.
Okay. Yes, because someone was telling me too. They said, and of course, I guess this, that Texas said, just by going there by bulk ammunition and all, you can get all kinds of mixed rounds.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, there's nothing wrong or suspicious about that at all. I mean, but I think once again, that comes with experience. That comes with trying to get to learn all the facts in this case.
I mean, there's so much stuff that I still learn every day that I was like, I didn't know that. I mean, because my whole, when I first got into this and like with the all those stuff, and I got the only thing I read was conspiracy, and because I think the human mind I forgot who told me that, but I'll borrow their quote, craves a mystery, and so I would just read and all this stuff, and then I started getting hit with this long gunman stuff, and then I was like, I don't want to listen to that, and then I finally just like, well, I'm not doing myself a justice if I don't start listening to it. And then finally it was like, damn, I can't believe I fell for that. I said, I'm a smarter guy than that. And I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, how did I fall for that? How did I? And I did. I believed it.
I mean, I guess it's not as fun. That's the wrong word, but to believe Oswald was the only man. I think, it's not as exciting or romantic or whatever or intriguing, but it is what it is.
It's not as sexy to think that some
There you go.
Guy right here, it's much more fun that he's an agent, since I mean, it's just not as fun. I mean, what kind of movie would Hollywood want to make? This right here, or this guy who killed the president?
Of course.
You've never seen one made over Garfield or McKinley or.
Of course, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this has been a really fun one here.
I know we went kind of off topic. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. But I mean, no, you covered. I mean, unless there's something else you missed to cover on that.
I'm trying to think. I don't. No, I don't think so.
Well, man, I'm glad to have you on, and have to meet up sometime, man. What part of Florida you live in?
Just outside of Orlando.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Well, man, thanks for coming on, dude. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris.